Hey there riders, Journo Kris here, and BMW have revealed a concept machine that is an interesting glimpse at the possible future of motorcycling. I say possible because it looks like an option designed to prompt the kind of legislation that would support this kind of bike's existence and widespread use. Which is a bit of a gamble, although BMW seem to have baked some features into the design that governments are likely to like, or may just be a sign of things to come as they'd be in the position to know. The BMW Vision AMBY, as it's called, is basically the cross between a bicycle and electric motorcycle. It weighs a mere 65 kilos, which is very heavy for a bicycle but very light for a motorcycle, and the range they are claiming is 110 kilometers, which is pretty generous. The caveat to that is the top speed of 60 kilometers per hour, which would make this a viable urban commuter, but pretty strictly restrict it from higher speed roads, which may not be a problem. It is definitely more closely aligned with bicycles in many ways when you look at the seat, which doesn't scream comfort, or even looking at those lights, which are fairly small, although LEDs are of course very bright. The wheels are again closer to a bicycle or maybe a trials bike with massive rims and fairly chunky tyres. Brakes are disc units at both ends and fairly flimsy by motorcycle standards, but the Vision AMBY is light and power is limited, offsetting that factor. Naturally, it's essentially an auto with a turn and go throttle, which makes it very inviting. There's no bicycle pedals either, instead running pegs, and the ride triangle looks fairly compact between the seat and the pegs, but much more generous to the reach to the bars, looking at the rider they've got on the bike in the pictures supplied at least. That seat height is also 830mm, which is pretty normal for a sports bike, although being so narrow the reach to the ground on this is likely to be a little easier than people may expect comparing it to a full-size motorcycle with a similar claimed seat height. BMW described the fork system as bicycle style too, however they look like a smaller diameter set of forks which you could find on a motorcycle, while the rear runs a swing arm and single shock unit. The final drive is belt, which would be fairly efficient, and we've got to assume the amount of servicing for a machine like this would be very limited indeed, saving money. There's no storage or rack in evidence though, which would seem a good inclusion for something envisioned as the future of urban mobility, while the bars are again very bicycle styled. Interestingly, there's no mirrors, which I would have thought were a necessity for use on the road for simple safety, but then if I was riding this on the road, I'd want a bigger headlight indicator and the mirrors. Granted, I'm not a cyclist, so maybe that's just me. Where things get interesting is in how BMW envisaged this electric motorcycle being used, where 3 automatic modes would determine the speed you're capable of, with that being for instance 25km for use on bicycle lanes or cycle paths, while a 45km/h and 60km/h setting would cater to lower speed suburban or more regular multi-lane roads respectively. They also mention that naturally a helmet and license plate would be required, but suggest that performance could be linked to your license type. For instance, if you've got one of these as a family, whether that means a younger family member could use it at a limited 25km/h speed, basically as a bicycle, which would be quite interesting. This would require being linked to your mobile, for instance, which would then include stored license data to activate the appropriate modes, with some mention of ID verification also there, such as Face ID to ensure it actually is you riding the Vision AMBY. So the idea of an e-cycle in this form is actually pretty cool. I reckon commuting around Sydney, I could make do on a vehicle like this, although a top speed of 70 or 80km/h would be preferable in my mind if the vehicle had the stability and handling to do that with confidence. However, maybe that's just not the case with this kind of design, and they're probably erring on the side of caution. With the low power bicycle mode, essentially it also has a lot of potential being able to be used by different family members with different restrictions. Although whether you'd let someone without a motorcycle license of some form ride a cycle weighing as little as 65 kilos is a valid question, with that rider weight and the bike combined enough to do some damage if you did hit someone, especially a pedestrian or fellow cyclist. While manually switching modes is mentioned, the Vision AMBY runs an integrated plate display which displays the current speed mode, which is probably envisaged as giving those around you confidence you're not doing 60km/h in a bicycle lane for instance, which if shared with pedestrians or even slower bicycles could be quite dangerous indeed. The other system mentioned is geofencing, where GPS and road recognition software would determine if you're on a cycle path, for instance, and limit you to 25km/h, or a multi-lane road and allow you to do the full 60km/h. I'm assuming a lot more would go into this system, like the auto driving systems we've seen, as I know from experience in Australia that GPS can really struggle to tell which road you're on, and at times even which direction you're facing. Obviously, travelling at 60 kilometers per hour and your bike suddenly thinking you're on a cycle path could be extremely dangerous, as much so as doing 60km on a cycle path as well. So while I'm sure there'll be safeguards and the testing to get something like this passed would be extensive, I do have to wonder about that side of things. It's not that hard to see either, with Europe introducing legislation that will be incorporated into new vehicles, four-wheel vehicles at least, to stop people speeding in the near future. Those systems will likely use GPS and road signage to determine what's allowed, with some even questioning whether the systems may shut down your vehicle if you're naughty, or perhaps notify the local authorities of your behaviour so they can come and find you and appropriately punish you, keeping in mind that the vehicle actually would be keeping a record of everything you've done, so it would be very easy to get in trouble. Also mentioned by BMW is the idea of your mode being matched to your insurance cover, although they also talk about insurance cover on an on-demand basis, which actually makes me wonder if these may be intended not just as something you'd own, or even primarily so, but perhaps as a rental type vehicle that would be left in charging bays in the city, where you could walk up, pay, demonstrate an appropriate license type, and maybe get an on-demand insurance coverage for that specific trip. This would certainly benefit from the ID system to get the bike activated, and the mentioned immobilizer system for ensuring no one nicks it, say if you've parked it in a charging bay while at work and you haven't returned it. I'm sure insurance companies are also licking their chops at the idea of this kind of insurance system, where they could charge on a ride-by-ride basis, with the onboard logging system no doubt also used to see whether they could get out paying a claim if you've done something that they don't like. The bureaucracy of ID checking, insurance checking, automated speed limitation and such is surely going to be very attractive to governments as well, who are increasingly pushing fairly Orwellian policies because they've got our best interests at heart, of course, and it's all about safety and for our own good. Now, putting aside my cynicism, the Vision AMBY really is an excellent concept, with BMW saying it's intended as a blueprint to drive forward conversations about future-orientated travel in cities. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of the connectivity, oversight, and concept of automated speed controls, but with manual modes and the ability to use this as a bicycle legally, this would be a pretty amazing offering, while swapping to a low-power e-motorcycle at the click of a button would be incredibly convenient and fun. There's probably an argument to be made that over in Europe, this kind of thing is just part of playing the game when introducing new mobility ideas that will need accompanying legislation to support multi-use vehicles, because they are legislating in the use of electric vehicles pretty heavily, well outside what you'd really consider demand from the actual market itself. It's also worth mentioning that BMW also revealed an Vision AMBY, which is a much closer version to a bicycle, including pedals, a more traditional bicycle style frame, very low bars, quite an aggressive overall look to it in fact, and a pretty tall seat, which in comparison is apparently offering a 300km range depending on the riding mode used. In comparison, it only weighs 30 kilos, has a small battery unit by the looks of it and a 2000 watt hour capacity, and that range gets broken down to 300 kilometers plus at 25 kilometers an hour, 180 kilometers at 45 kilometers an hour, or 75 kilometers of range at 60 kilometers an hour, with the charge time, fast charging that is, also revealed as 3 hours. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you reckon this kind of hybrid vehicle would work? Would you buy one? And would you rent one if they were available in a city near you? Thanks for watching and stay safe out there.